Shri Guru Namaha. Shri Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Lokashankaram Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shankarupena Matchittam Pankikrutam Abhujyaya Kinkari Yasya Samaya Shankaracharya Mashraye. Offering humble salutations at the lotus feet of Jagadguru. Warm greetings of the Shankara Jayanti to everyone. It also happens to be Ramanuja Tirunakshatram in this evening. So it is a holy assemblage of two holiest saints of our tradition. So warm greetings to everybody on this occasion. So today we will start with a recitation of one of the Shankara stotrams. By Shankara stotrams, we don't mean Shankara has written it, but it is written on Shankara by one of his very famous disciples by name Totakacharya. So it goes by the name Totakastakam, about which we will talk a little bit later in today's episode. But before that, Srimai will render this Totakastakam for us. Come, Srimai.
विदिताखिलशास्त्रसुधा जलधे महितोपनिषत् कथितार्थनिधे हृदये कलये विमलं चरणं भवशङ्करदेशिकमे शरणं करुणावरुणालय पालय मां भवसागरदुःखविदूनहृदं रचयाखिलदर्शनतत्त्वविदं भवशङ्करदेशिकमे शरणं भवता जनता सुहिता भविता निजबोधविचारणचारुमते कलयेश्वर जीवविवेकविदं भवशङ्करदेशिकमे शरणं भव एव भवानिति मे नितरां समजायत चेतसि कौतुकिता मम वारय मोहमहाजलधिं भवशङ्करदेशिकमे शरणं सुकृतेऽधिकृते बहुधा भवतो भविता समदर्शनलालसता अतिदीनमिमं परिपालय मां भवशङ्करदेशिकमे शरणं जगतीमवितुं कलिताकृतयो विचरन्ति महामहसश्चलतः अहिमांशुरिवात्र विभासि गुरो भवशङ्करदेशिकमे शरणं गुरुपुङ्गवपुङ्गवकेतनते समतामयतां नहि कोऽपि सुधीः शरणागतवत्सल तत्त्वनिधे भवशङ्करदेशिकमे शरणं विदिता न मया विशदैककला न च किञ्चन काञ्चनमस्ति गुरो द्रुतमेव विधेहि कृपां सहजां भवशङ्करदेशिकमे शरणम्।
Thank you. Thank you very much, Srimai, for rendering this beautiful Totakastakam. We will talk a little bit about this, the greatness of this Totakastakam later in course of today's talk. So, As you are all aware, we have been doing this as a five episode series where I spoke on the background of Shankara's advent on the first day. The second day was about his descent, the birth, and the boyhood. The third day was about being taking renunciation. The fourth day was about his sojourn, where he moved around and he wrote the bhashyas and all that. And today we hope to cover until his ascent to the Sarvagya Peetham at Kashmir. Okay. So that is the that was the layout of this five series talk, and let us see how we are able to do the progress today. Because and yesterday when we completed, Mandana Mishra had actually he was performing a Pitrakaryam when Shankara Bhagavad Pada gate crashed into his house, and he challenged him for a vada with him. And they have, as I mentioned, but I didn't go into the details of Shankara and Shankara Bhagavad Pada and Mandana Mishra had quite a bit of a very interesting duel that is very deeply steeped in the Sanskrit literature. Both of them have, and after which it gets a lot insulting also. But Shankara Bhagavad Pada, as a true ascetic, he doesn't take anything to his heart, and his sole aim is to have a vada with to drag Mandana Mishra into a vada with him, and then give more credence to his school of Advaita philosophy. So, as this shouting match, or I shouldn't call it so, but as this duel and sledging was going on, the rishis who were there, Vedavyasa and Jaimini, who had come, they actually told Mandana it was not proper on his part to treat a yati who has come to his house like that, and therefore he should actually invite him also into this Pitrakaryam and felicitate him also in due with due respect. And Mandana, being a very well educated and very sanskari Brahmin, he readily recognizes the advice given to him by says Vyasa and Jaimini, and he invites Shankara also. And during the course of the bhojanam, Shankara tells him he is not interested in this bhojanam, but he actually wants a vada with him. He wanted vada bhiksha. So therefore, they agree that on the subsequent day they will have the vada, and they wondered upon who should be appointed as the referee, the judge for their debate, who would judge them, and both Jaimini and Vyasa said that you should appoint your wife, that is Mandana's wife, Ubhay Bharati, also known as Saraswati, also known as Sharada, as the judge for this particular duel, and she is supremely qualified to be a judge there. So then they all dispersed for the day. The following morning, Shankara got up and finished his ablutions and anushthanam and headed along with his sishyas to the house of Mandana Mishra. So he took his seat in Mandana Mishra's house. Obviously, it was a very opulent and well-to-do house. Mandana was a very well-to-do grihastha who was very deeply steeped in this karma kanda, ritualistic aspect of the Vedas, and he believed that the ritualistic aspect was the be all and end all of life, and that he didn't have a very clear vision on for what kind of salvation people would actually do that. He he propagated a very raw form of ritualistic worship, and there were a lot of there was no clarity in his mind as far as Shankara could think. So therefore, this was going to be a very interesting duel. But as I said, Mandana Mishra was very well to do, so his home was very expansive and very well to do, and there were gatekeepers. And as we said yesterday, there were parrots who would actually parrot out, Vedantic wisdom that the passers-by could actually hear. So when they sat down, and Mandana's wife Sharada, who was very well versed in all the sciences, and she was to be the umpire, and she also gladly sat down to commence this debate. So Shankara then first proposed his point of view. His point of view was that the Supreme Being, which is the absolute reality, intelligence, and purity, and it is the sole existence which gives appearance of the universe on account of its being shrouded in ignorance or Maya. He said there is only one Supreme Being, one Brahman, that on account of Maya appears as many, and it gives different appearances. And like it is just like sometimes we see in the seashell, you see a water droplet that is shining, and we mistake it for a silver. Okay, but it's actually not silver. So that is how the Maya is caused, and the Paramatman is seen in different lights by different people. And so he says, the seashell, which lends the appearance of silver on account of the darkness around it, the want of clear visibility and the distance, if its real nature is understood, the appearance as the universe would disappear, and the supreme being, bliss, would alone remain. So Shankara says that is the eternal salvation. As per Shankara, the salvation is actually eternal, and he said that the proof for this are the Upanishads, meaning the Shruti Vakyam is the proof for that. And and Shankara also proposed, O Mandana, if indeed I get defeated in my debate with you, I would give up my asceticism, I would give up my sannyasa, and remove these saffron clothes, and I would again take the white clothes. So sannyasis, they discard the white clothes. They always wear saffron. So I would come back to the white clothes, and your wife Ubhay Bharati should be the umpire in this debate. So when Shankara he propounded his doctrine thus, then Mandana also made his proposition. And Mandana said, when we speak about the Supreme Being, which is pure intelligence, he called this Supreme Being as the pure intelligence, bliss. He said the wordings of Vedas are not proof. So, because Mandana said a word by itself doesn't mean much, okay? It cannot describe the results, okay? A sentence is just a collection of words, and it can denote only a prescribed subject, okay? And without a verb describing that particular word, the word has very little meaning. Like you say, king, horse, or pot, there are no meanings as such unless you say the king rules, or the pot contains water, or something like that. So you have to qualify those nouns. So only then they take up any special meaning. That's what Mandana said. So therefore he said the Vedic texts on philosophy are incapable of defining the omnipresent, omniscient, and omnibliss supreme. So being, when it is not connected with action, because the Vedic texts in some places they just give very dry injunctions. So dry, for want of another word, I'm using that, but they make those injunctions. So if you do not take it in the context, you may not actually get the point that it is trying to make. So and Mandana said, so therefore action is important, that is the kratu is important, ritual is important, and they should be performed throughout the lifetime. And Mandana also made the proposition, if indeed I lose in this debate, I get defeated in this debate, I will do the reverse of what you said. I will give up my whites, and I will don the saffron, which means I will take sannyasa. And if you think my wife is capable, she can be the umpire in this duel. So therefore, both of them sat down, and Ubhay Bharati also she got up, and then she came with two garlands. Okay, and she offered a garland to her husband. She garlanded him, and she gave him the other garland to be put around the neck of Shankara. And she said, "Look, I am a householding lady, and I'll have my chores to be done in the kitchen. I have to feed you by the afternoon. You will be doing this debate, but I need to feed you in the afternoon. Come afternoon, I will have to feed you. So you continue this debate. This garland that I have put around your necks, whoever is about to lose, it will actually fade. Okay, whosoever's garland actually fades first, it will be deemed that that person has lost this debate. And both of them agreed to that, and then she went inside the house. So in doing so, she was upholding a conduct, because she didn't want to sit in front of her husband and then be a judge. Okay, because there was a husband and wife relationship there. And also, if Mandana actually sees her while he is putting forth his points, and maybe he will be a lot of thoughts could be running in him as to what she could be thinking, and because that personal relation is there. And secondly, she also didn't want to sit as a judge when a great ascetic has actually come. However, she was interested with that, so she found out a technical way to do that, and she went inside to do her course. Of course, she was keeping a tab on their arguments for sure, but she was not physically sitting there and judging the debate. Okay? Because she had to prepare food for not only the two of them are having the debate, their sishyas are also there, so she has a responsibility to feed all of them by the evening. So both of them started, and actually, what she says is, she doesn't use the word defeat. Okay, for whoever the opposite of success happens, so that's what she says. She uses her word very politely and in a very befitting manner. She uses the word Vijaya Taraha, Vijaya Itaraha, Vijayat Itaraha. So, which means other than success, what happens to somebody? Other than success, what can happen is a failure. So she said that, and then she went inside, and both of them they kept on having this debate with points and counterpoints, and day by day, their enthusiasm in this debate actually was only increasing. Okay, it was getting more and more, and uh, yeah, at lunchtime, she would come, and she would tell her husband, "Your meal is ready." And she would tell Shankara, you can come for bhiksha. Okay, because that is the appropriate way to tell the yati, the sannyasi, that it is not come for food. A sannyasi lives on bhiksha. Okay, so therefore, she went and told him, "You can come for bhiksha." Okay, this is important because in due course we will know why she said that. Okay, and both of them actually went in time, and then they came back and resumed their duel of arguments and counterpoints. But none of them actually they were sweating on account of they being proved wrong, or being countered upon, or there was no animosity, there was no raise in the pitch. Both of them sat like absolute professionals, and they were putting point to counterpoint. Actually, their it gets a lot technical. For want of time, we cannot go into the entire points and counterpoints raised by both of them. But I will try to touch upon there and there, certain things that seem to have appealed to me, or I might have understood that. So, Mandana's point, so Shankara actually said, great preceptors like Uddalaka, Yajnavalkya have taught their disciples. Like Uddalaka's disciple was Shvetaketu. So he told Shvetaketu, Tattvamasi Shvetaketu. So, hey Shvetaketu, you are actually Tattvamasi, that thou art. And similarly, Janaka was also taught like that. Okay. and the Aham Brahmasmi. These were the things that are actually taught by their gurus to them. And Mandana Mishra said, see, just by saying Tattvamasi doesn't mean anything. Okay, it's just a word. You just said the what? Okay, there is no kriya associated with that. There is nothing that is happening there. So simply by saying you are that, it doesn't mean anything. Okay, so if you have to say that every word carries meaning, so there are words like these in Veda, like khat, fat, jahi, hum, fat, swaha, and all that. So by themselves, they do not carry any meaning. It's only in the context, and when they are used with something, they might carry some meaning. So, however, the greatness of Vedas, which and Upanishads that Mandana Mishra also admits, is that even if those words by themselves do not carry meaning, when you chant them, your sins are actually washed out. Your sins are destroyed. So that they remove the sins of the chanter. Okay. So therefore, although that happens, they do not establish the absence of difference between the individual and the supreme soul, because Tattvamasi when says that means that is the supreme soul. Tvam is you, the individual soul. Asi is that you are that. Okay, so that is what it says. So simply because these words mean something, okay, they don't really establish that Tattvamasi means what is that. Okay, what is it? What is it that it is actually qualifying? Okay, so it is not absolute. It's not very clear. Okay, so therefore it doesn't necessarily and automatically mean that it is saying the individual and the supreme soul are the same. Then Shankara again counters his point. He says, okay, uh, yeah, yeah, actually, Mandana comes back and says, "Oh, great ascetic, though the Tattvamasi indicates apparently the absence of difference between the individual and the universal soul, you should not assume that. What it means is that it praises as God only those individuals who perform sacrifices and other rites, yajnas and other rituals. Hence, the words in Upanishads only follow and adore the path of ritualism. That's how Mandana Mishra tried to use the affirmation of Vedam to bolster his point of the ritualistic worship. So Shankara was listening, and Mandana continued. So he then said, "Oh Master, so by now the yesterday's animosity was gone, and he also tasted a little bit of Shankara's ability and deep wisdom. So he started calling him very respectfully and said, there are directions in Vedas like contemplate the mind as the universal soul, contemplate the sun as the universal soul, contemplate the ether or sky as the universal soul. So these refer to objects which are not really the universal soul. So similarly, he says the Tattvamasi also means that the individual should be contemplated upon as the universal soul. Then Shankara actually said, "Oh, learned man." So he also addressed Mandana with a lot of respect, and he said these words refer to the direction to contemplate. So when he says contemplate the mind as so and so, he says there is contemplate. However, Shankara said, in case of the word Tattvamasi, there are no words indicating such a command. Okay, then it doesn't say contemplate on this or that. It simply is a statement. So it is a directive. It's a statement saying Tattvamasi. Okay, so it's as simple as that. There is nothing to say you contemplate on this or that. Then Mandana comes back. It actually shows that his mastery on the Vedas, although like he follows that from a ritualistic aspect, his mastery is unquestionable. So he invokes a particular kratu called Ratri Satram, and he says in that there are no words of command, but the language indicates the result of doing the sacrifice, and it is taken as having prescribed the direction and then indicating the result of it. So then he says, similarly, although there are no commands there, but it indicates the result. So similarly, in this case also, it indicates liberation. So it is proper to interpret it as meaning that it connotes command. So, although the Ratri Satram Kratu actually doesn't command, but it gives those indicated results. So, therefore, suggesting a command. So there then he says, similarly, this particular word tattvamasi also it connotes the command and therefore the result. Then Shankara says, and then he says, if Tattvamasi refers to an equality, then does the equality rest in its being omniscient and all-pervading character? Uh, if it means animate, then there is no need for this science. So that equality is a thing known to everyone. Okay. So actually, this is very technical detail that Shankara gets into, and I am also not adequately qualified to completely comment on this. But the whole argument, the whole debate between Shankara and Mandana, it revolves around this particular tattvamasi. Okay, and finally, as the debate is going on, Mandana actually says, even though there is this difference, permanency is a common quality for both. So he says the individual soul and the supreme soul both are permanent, and hence, the Tattvamasi seems okay. So he kind of admits Shankara's viewpoint, but he doesn't say that in as many words. So then he changes his tag slightly, and he says, on account of the quality of intelligence existing in the supreme soul, the cause of this universe, it is equated with the individual soul. So he says that there is a certain quality of intelligence in the supreme soul, in the Paramatma, which is superior to that of the Jivatma. So and therefore, so it is that particular difference in the intelligence that is what is responsible for this difference. But Shankara actually refutes that in sound words, and he says, see, there is only the supreme soul, and there is ignorance around that, and out of that maya around the supreme soul, it is seen in many ways by the individual soul. That is because of the agyanam. Okay, so the individual soul has the agyanam, the jivatma has the agyanam, and the paramatma has maya. Okay, so therefore, when you remove these two things, if you are able to remove the maya from the paramatma and the agyanam from the jivatma, both of them become the same. So that is what Shankara soundly argues. Then, because the Tattvamasi is a pratyaksha pramana, so it is saying it is direct evidence. Then Mandana comes to something called the Anumana pramana. Okay, then he actually says, Anumana pramana means we say different words like ghata, pata, and all that. Okay, ghata, pata. Ghata means the pot, pata means cloth. And just because the two words are different, they mean two different things. The tattvam, they are also different. Okay, then Shankara says, oh, is the difference in the individual and the supreme being real or artificial? So if it is real, then you should be able to prove it by an example. Okay, the result is not different from its cause. And that's how Shankara actually refutes this Ghatapata example given by Mandana Mishra, and he again reaffirms the concept of Maya and Agyanam that comes. And then Mandana comes to a third point, which is the Shabda Pramana. He invokes another part of the Vedam, and there is something called Dvasuparna Sayuja Sakhaya, so which actually means on a particular branch of a tree, two birds are sitting. Okay, so dva suparna. So means there are two birds which are actually sitting there, and one bird is among the two. One enjoys the results of his action, while the other is indifferent to the results of the action and remains unattached. So he says, since both of them are sitting on that same branch, they are actually different. Okay, so this is he just quotes this particular verse from the Veda and Upanishad, and he from Veda, and he tells Shankara that Veda itself says like this. So what do you say for that? So Shankara says, no, 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 don't misinterpret. The two birds that are said to be sitting there are actually the Atma and the mind. Okay, so the mind, whatever it does, it gets the results of its action, whereas the Atma is just a witness. So, and Shankara, he says the mind enjoys, the soul is a witness to it. Okay, and Shankara quotes it from the Vedic portion called the Paingya Rahasya Brahmanam. Okay, and as this debate is going on like that, he further goes on to say, Shankara quotes, Tadetat Sattvam Yena Swapnam Pashyati. So, which means that thing, that entity by whom the dream is seen. Okay, so by whom means it is actually instrumental, meaning it's an instrument. There is an instrument that is actually seeing this dream. So therefore, that means that that is actually different. Okay, so the in the above extract, the word denoting the subject, which means yena, is in the instrumental case, meaning cause as a cause by whom. So by the words, the seer is meant one having contact or interest in the body. What is meant is not the universal spirit. So which by which he says that the person, the atma, who is actually in the body, so by him this particular dream is actually seen. So therefore, that other bird which is sitting on that particular branch is not the Paramatma, but it is actually the Atma, and the other one is the mind, which is actually enjoying the fruit. Okay. And when this debate was going on, and Mandana was running out of his arguments, and one day, the garland faded ever so slightly, and Ubhay Bharati came out to call for lunch, and she saw that and said, "Both of you may come for Bhiksha," which means that Mandana had actually, he had not won, Shankara had won, and Mandana had to now, as per his vow, he had to take sannyasa. And Mandana said, okay, and then, of course, he was very gracious in accepting his defeat, because although he started out by thinking that he debated pretty well, because he had absolute mastery on the Vedas. He could quote eloquently from everywhere, and he stunned even Acharya Bhagavad Shankara Bhagavad in many places, and Shankara really had to dig deep to counter his points. So therefore, Mandana still raised certain doubts from what Shankara told him, and still Mandana was having certain doubts about how Shankara's philosophy was in line with what Jaimini had written. So, as we know from yesterday's episode, that Mandana was in very good terms with these sages Jaimini and Vyasa, and he could meditate upon them, and they would actually come and bless him. So when he meditated upon, says Jaimini, Jaimini himself came there and said, "No, no, don't have no doubt that what this person is saying is exactly as what I thought, in my mind. So therefore, accept what he's saying." And when Jaimini also said that Mandana had a lot of peace in his mind, that okay, that he had lost the debate to a great preceptor, to a great ascetic, and he was actually at peace with getting defeated by him. But at that point, Ubhay Bharati came and said, and Mandana actually he praised Shankara, and he said, here henceforth I have abandoned my son, wife, house, riches, and everything, and I have surrendered myself at your lotus feet. And that's when Vaibharati comes and says, now since I am half of him, I am Ardhangi, so you have not won until you have actually defeated me. Then Shankara says, no, but an ascetic, how can being an ascetic, how can I actually have a debate with a woman? Okay, and I cannot have that. Then she says, no, it's not like that. Says Yagyavalkya carried out debate with Gargi, okay, and Janaka carried out a debate with scholar Sulabha. So, does anybody cast aspersions on, says Yagyavalkya and King Janaka? No, their fame has only exceeded by doing that. So, therefore, you should engage in a debate with me. Then Shankara says, sure, okay, because he has to accept it. And the debate between Shankara and Mandana Mishra went on for 5 days, whereas the debate between Shankara and Ubhay Bharati went on for 17 days. Both of them kept quoting and quoting and quoting and made points and counterpoints, and it went on for 17 days. And Ubhay Bharati could find no defect whatsoever in Shankara's propositions, and she had to accept what all he's saying. And when that happened, she thought for a while and said, "No, I think this ascetic cannot be one like this." Okay, so I have to ask him about the intricacies of a grihastha's life. Okay, that is what happens between the man and woman, and I need to ask him about that because he is an ascetic from a very young age. So therefore, he may not know the intricacies of what goes on there. So therefore, I should ask him about that. So then she boldly asked the questions of the Kama Shastra to Shankara, and Shankara, he was not taken aback. He knew it would be coming, and he knew the answers. Being Sarvagya, being all-knowing, he knew the answers. But as an ascetic, if he straight away gives the answer, it would bring it would not bring glory to him. They would say, "Oh, being an ascetic, you see what he's speaking." So he was caught between a rock and a hard place. And so he says that, okay, why don't you give me a month time? I will come back and answer this. And it was an accepted practice in debates to take time off like that. So Shankara then said, okay, fine. She said, fine. And then they went back. And Shankara said, okay, now how do I know what a grihastha actually goes through? Okay, the phases of anger, pleasure, tear, and how they change with the moods. Okay, and how does this happen? Because as sannyasis, they usually stay in a very constant contemplation and in proper without any disturbances of their mind. But here they wanted to he wanted to experience the thrills and chills and of the family life. So he had yogic power. So along with his sishyas Padmapada and others, he started a yogic travel in the air, and he went to other places. So suddenly, in one of the kingdom, he actually saw a king by name Amaruka, and the king had actually died. And in his inner chambers, all his women, all the queens, and all the king has many women. So all of them had surrounded him, and they were crying desolately on upon his death. So that Shankara notices him and says, if I get into the body of this king, it is possible that I'll be able to know what are the thrills and frills of a family life like. And so he actually tells his sishyas that he would do that, and he gives the example of Lord Sri Krishna, where he says that just as the yogic powers of Lord Sri Krishna were not affected by his playing with the gopi women, so also the physical pleasures do not affect the person who has no desire for such pleasures. So I have absolutely no desire for such pleasures, but there is a power called Vajroli in us that would actually protect us and prevent the effect of such sin befalling on us. So, because the resolution is the cause of all desires, and I have actually no desire except to know what this is like. So, with those words, Shankara tells his Sishyas, "Hey, go. Let's go to that particular hill, which is not habitable, or which is very inaccessible, and I will leave my body there, and I will enter into the king's body. My life force will enter into the body of the king, and you guard my body, okay? Because if that body is destroyed, the soul cannot come back to that particular body, so the soul will be trapped in the other body. So therefore, you guard my body there while I go into the king's body and see what his life feels like." Now, so the Sishya said, "Fine." And within no time, the dead king Amaruka actually got up into life. And once he got up into life, he was not like the earlier king. He was extremely bright. He had great abilities, and he ruled like like he had not ruled before. Okay, he was very good to his people, and he administered great policies, and he delegated work very nicely. And then he went back to the inner chambers to have to enjoy with his queens. And the ministers, in the meanwhile, who saw him, they said that no, this certainly cannot be our king, okay, because we have seen him from close quarters for a long, long time, and he was never like this. So he's so good means some yogi has entered into his body, which is good for our kingdom. So what we shall do is that we should find out in the kingdom if there is a dead body that is lying without cremation, we should immediately cremate it, because then this soul would be trapped in our king, and we will have a good kingdom and good rule. And so they instructed the soldiers to do that. And in the meanwhile, the Sishyas who were sitting there, they were getting anxious why their guru was actually not coming back. And King Amaruka, he had actually mastered the Kama Shastra in the meantime, and not only that, he had written a treatise on that also. Okay, within that short time, he wrote a treatise on Kama Shastra also, and as they were getting more and more jittery, the Sishya said, "No, no, I think we should go and bring our preceptor back." And so they went out in search of him, and they infiltrated. They actually got into the court of King Amaruka in the guise of bards who could sing and dance. And through songs, they told him that they're waiting for you. They're waiting for him, and he has to actually come back. In the meanwhile, so Shankara also realizes that okay, he has to now go back. Now, in the meanwhile, the soldiers had reached the top of the hill and they found that body, and they actually put it for cremation. So that's the time when Padmapada was sitting in his meditation, and Padmapada was a Narasimha Upasaka. Okay, so he thought of Lord Narasimha, and he knew that what was happening to his Acharya's body. So he immediately willed it, and he rescued Acharya's body from that fire, and he got him back. And in the meanwhile, the king Amaruka fell dead, and Acharya walked back from that particular cave. Now, after this, Acharya Bhagavad Pada along with his other Sishyas, they went back to Mandana's house. And unlike the first time, Mandana, who had actually taken sannyasa now, he very pleasantly and very joyously he welcomed his Acharya. And, he was given sannyasa, and he was given the name Sureshwara, because once Acharya Bhagavad Pada came back, Ubhay Bharati knew that he could answer what she asked him of, and then she also admitted defeat. So Ubhay Bharati said, "Now this awareness is with me that I am actually Goddess Saraswati, and I am here on account of a curse, and today my job has been fulfilled, so I'll go back. Then Shankara said, "No, mother, I am your devotee, and until I permit you, you should not actually go back." Okay. So when he says that, Bharati actually says fine, and then she actually stays back. Then Suresh Mandana Mishra, he is initiated into the sannyasa order with the Mahavakyam Tattvamasi, and he takes the discipleship. He becomes the Shishya of Shankara Bhagavad Pada, and they live on the holy bank of Narmada. Okay. Now, after a while, Acharya moved south, Bhagavad Pada moved south, and they reached Sri Sailam, okay, in Andhra. So they saw the river Krishna that was flowing by the side of the Mallikarjuna Lingam, Mallikarjuna Devasthanam, the Jyotirlingam, and there Shankara Bhagavad Pada, he worshipped Lord Mallikarjuna and Brahmarambika, and along with his Sishyas Padmapada, Sureshwara, and others, he was having he was performing his anushthanam, and he was teaching the Brahma Sutras, Bhashyas, and he was taking forward the school of Advaita along in Sri Shailam. So when that happened, one day one particular Bhairava came. So these Bhairavas are Kapalikas who wear these skulls that they have hunted. They wear skulls around their neck, and he had I think 100 plus skulls around his neck. So one day he made bold, and when Shankara was alone, he approached Shankara, and he told him, "Look, I prayed to Lord Shiva, and I told him that I want to come to Kailasa in the bodily form. So can you please?" And Shiva told me, "If you have one more skull, which is of either a king or a sannyasi, then you wear that, you can come to Kailasa in the bodily form." So if I go to a king, no king would actually give me his skull. So that's out of question. Now you are a sannyasi, you are a great sannyasi, and as such, you do not have any uh, you know um, any attachment to your body. So why don't you give me your skull? So Shankara says, "Of course, please take it. This body is only for service of others. So you may actually take it from me. However, bear in mind one thing: if my Sishyas come to know of this, you will not live." Okay, so without their knowing at a particular time, you do that. And so they think they agree on a time, and at that particular time, when the Sishyas are out for their Anushtanam, Sandhyavandanam, and all that, so that is when Shankara sits and Kapalika comes with his sword and the Trishulam, and Shankara Bhagavad Pada goes into his Samadhi. So and Kapalika thinks, "Oh, this is an opportune time," and he lifts his sword. That very moment, Padmapada, just like before, he senses danger to Acharya, and he immediately invokes Lord Narasimha, because, as I said, he's a Narasimha Upasaka. He immediately gets Lord Narasimha possesses him, and from wherever he was sitting, he leaps into the sky, and in one shot he is present there where the Kapalika is about to slay the head of Shankara Bhagavad Pada, and he just catches hold of that Kapalika, and with his nails he tears open his heart and kills him in one shot. And Lord Narasimha, he is possessed, so he's actually very angry. So in that commotion, actually, Bhagavad Pada comes out of his samadhi and sees what has happened, and he prays to Lord Narasimha and he pacifies him, much like Prahlada pacified Lord Narasimha at the end of when Prahlada pacified Lord Narasimha when he killed Hiranyakashipu, right? So and then all the other disciples, they asked Padmapada, "How is it that you could invoke Lord Narasimha in no time?" Then Padmapada says, "Even as a child, I was a Narasimha Upasaka. I prayed for him all the time, and in once I was looking for him in the forests, and when I was looking for him, one guy, this cowherd came to me and said, 'What are you waiting? What are you searching in this forest? Can I help you?' I told the cowherd, look, I'm looking for this form of man lion. So Narasimha, I have read that he lives in the forest. The cowherd said, oh, is that so? Wait a moment, you sit here. I shall go into the forest and fetch him. And in no time, this cowherd goes into the forest and he brings the Narasimha form tied with these creepers. Okay, so the such a ferocious Narasimha form very meekly follows this cowherd and comes to Padmapada. And Padmapada is astonished that how is it that you have not given darshan to me, who has been doing your upasana all this time, but you have given your darshan to this cowherd, and you actually allowed yourself to be caught. He said that is his earnest bhakti which helped me to do that. So that is how I have the blessings of Lord Narasimha Swami, and I can invoke him whenever whenever I need his help and blessings. We will see in one more instance when he did the same thing. So that is why they say there is a very famous shloka for Narasimha. It says, Ugram Viram Mahavishnum Jwalantam Sarvatomukham Nrusimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrityor Mrityum Navamiham. He is death for death only. So therefore, praying to Narasimha fills one with so much optimism and enthusiasm and fearlessness. Okay, so that is what has been demonstrated here. So then, from Sri Shailam, after this episode, Acharya Shankara, Bhagavad moves along with his Sishyas and he goes to Gokarna in the present day Karnataka. And he there prays the Gokarneshwara because Gokarna is where the Atmalingam of Shiva is installed by Ravana. Ravana was carrying it off to Lanka, and then Ganesha held him there, and he made him, drop the Atmalinga there. So today also you can see that. So in the Gokarna Kshetra, Shankara, praises hymns to Lord Gokarneshwara, and he praises him as Ardhanarishwara. Then he goes to another holy place on the banks of Tunga, I believe, and that is called Hariharapuram, where Shiva and Vishnu are merged in one form called Shankaranarayana. So, if I'm not wrong, this Hariharapuram is only about 20 kilometers from Sringeri. It's a very beautiful place on the banks of Tunga. You will find a very beautiful temple there where you will have Lord Narasimha as well as Lord Shiva in the same temple there. So that is actually Hariharapura Kshetra. There is a beautiful Shankara Matha there, which is run by another Shankaracharya. And it is also very close to Sringeri, in the present day Sringeri. Uh, Present day Karnataka, it is there. So Shankara, he praises and hymn of that particular Lord there, Harihara, in a Harihara Stotra, where there are about 10 shlokas, and each shloka will have two meanings. Okay, it can be interpreted as being in the praise of Shiva as well as Vishnu. After From there, Shankara moves to, along with his Sishyas, of course, he moves to Mukambika, Kolur, I think Kollur in present day Kerala. Okay, and there he worships Devi, and with a lot of hymns, he worships goddess Mukambika. From Mukambika, he moves to a place called Sri Balipuram. Okay, the Sri Balipuram was a beautiful agraharam where a lot of some 2,000 Brahmins were settled, and they were all Agnihotris. They did payasam homam every day, such that the whole hamlet actually smelled of that milk, and the goddess of death was afraid to set foot there. In that Sri Balipuram, there lived a scholar by name Prabhakara, who was very skilled in Shastra, but he was also very sad because he had a son who was about 13 years old, but the son would not open his mouth to speak any word. In other words, he was a Jada. So he saw a lot of doctors and all that because Prabhakara was actually very well to do. So he saw a lot of doctors, but it was to no avail. So one day he came to know that a great ascetic has come to his town, and so he went along with his son to that particular ascetic. And then he said, Shankara, and as soon as this boy who wouldn't say a thing, he wouldn't eat for days, or he wouldn't interact with the world in normal ways, he would just sit silent, he would stare into emptiness. And when he saw Shankara, he immediately fell at his feet and he wouldn't even get up. And the father, narrated his, abnormal qualities to Acharya Bhagavad. And then Bhagavad held the boy with his arms and he lifted him and asked the boy, "Who are you?" The boy said, "Oh Lord, I am." And he said, "Who are you? Why do you behave like an inanimate being?" So the boy said, "Oh Lord, I am not an inactive or inanimate being. The inanimate body appears to be active on account of its contact with myself." He says the body is inanimate, but because I am the Chaitanyam, am inside, it appears, to be animate. Okay, there is no doubt about this. He says, I am the supreme being without the six feelings of the Shadripus, the Shadvikaras. Okay. And without the six changes, the six vikaras, I am either without the Shadripus or the Shadvikaras, that is the creation, existence, transformation, all this. I do not have any of this. So, let all those who desire liberation get the kind of experience which I am now enjoying. So, and then he explains in 12 stanzas the highest truth about the Supreme Being. So it is actually known as Hastamalakiyam. Okay, and Shankara immediately recognizes him, and he says, "You have explained the Brahman like you see him, like how clearly you can see a gooseberry which is on your palm." Okay, in Sanskrit it is haste malaka, haste malakam, haste amalakam. So amalaka is the gooseberry. So if you hold it on your hand, how clearly you can actually see it. That clearly he was able to see Brahman. So therefore, Shankara named him as Hastamalaka, and he told his father, he wouldn't be any good to you, so you send him with me. So he's fit to be with me. So Prabhakara actually very gladly offered his child to Shankara, and now Shankara, along with his Sishyas, now also with Hastamalaka, he proceeded from there. So he actually went to from there he went to Sringeri, and in Sringeri he put up a temple for Sharada. Okay, because he had asked Ubhay Bharati before she disappeared into the Brahmaloka. He had said that, so you should be in the place where the sage Rishyashringa performed his penance. Okay, and you should stay there forever, and you should fulfill the desires of the devotees who come and pray to you. So therefore, he made a temple in Sringeri, the Sharadamba temple, and he installed the goddess Sharada there. And when he was there, he got another boy another disciple by name Giri, who was later to be known by the name Totakacharya. Now, how this name Totakacharya comes? We heard Srimai render the Totakastakam. So this Totaka, or his earlier name was Giri. Giri was not a particularly bright student. Okay, he was not a bright Sishya who was cut out for this, the Vedantic rigor. Um, he didn't have a lot of bhasha gyanam or anything, but he earnestly served the Guru. He would wash the clothes of Guru. He would, be extremely, humble in his conduct towards the Guru. Whenever Guru took bath, immediately he gave him the towel to wipe himself, and he would, if the master stands, he stands, And if the master sits, also he stands and listens to him. He would never yawn in front of his master. He would never show his back to the master, meaning any of that conduct which might indicate disrespect. So Giri desisted from that completely, and he cooked for the master. He gave. He didn't eat before master, so he served him with complete dedication. So he was Shankara was very pleased with him. Okay, one such day, when Shankara had sat in the morning to teach the disciples, Giri was not there. He was washing Acharya's clothes in the river Tunga. Shankara said, "Let's wait for Giri." Okay. Then Padmapadacharya said, "Why to wait for somebody who doesn't understand anything? Telling something to him is same like telling something to this wall. So why should we wait for him?" Then Shankara didn't say anything. So he just closed his eyes for a moment, and he transferred his power to his Sishya, Totaka, at that very moment. Giri, okay, he transferred it to Giri at that very moment. And that spark raised in Giri, and immediately he came from there singing the praise of the Guru. Okay, yeah, so he sang the praise of the Guru that actually goes as Vidita Khila Shastra Sudha Jaladhe Mahat Mahitopanishat Kathitartha Nidhe Hridaye Kalaye Vimalam Charanam Bhava Shankara Deshika Me Sharanam. So it is an Astakam that ends with Bhava Shankara Deshika Me Sharanam. He Shankara Deshika Me Sharanam Bhava. Mama Sharanam Bhava. Be my refuge. Okay, it is a Deshika means teacher. So because he's actually a parivrajaka, so he keeps roaming all over teaching people, giving them jnanam. So guru. So deshika is another word for guru. So he says bhavashankara deshika me sharanam. So that is and he sets it in a particular meter with beautiful words. That particular meter had not been employed prior to that. So because he employed it for the first time, although the meter existed, he employed it for the first time. So that meter has come to be known after his name because that's called the Totaka meter. So he was actually called Totakacharya. Okay. So that is how that is how the Sishya Totakacharya came to Shankara. So now, although there are a lot of Sishyas, so these four Sishyas, the Hastamalakacharya, Totakacharya, Sureshwaracharya, and Padmapadacharya, these were the four Sishyas who were representing the four ideals of the four Vedas. That is, Hastamalaka was the okay, the four Vedas, the Rig, Yezu, Sama, and Atharva, not necessarily in that order, but of them, of course, Sureshwaracharya represents the Yajur Veda. I'm not particularly sure of who represented the other Vedas at this point in time. But suffice to say that these are the four acharyas who have taken, who for the first time took charge of these pitams, Amnai pitams that Shankara Bhagavad Pada had actually installed. So with these four disciples, Acharya Shankara started, Bhagavad Pada started moving from one place to the other. And on one such day, Sureshwaracharya came to him and said, "Oh Lord, you have written these Brahma Sutras. I would like to write a small note on how explanatory rule as to how this should be read." Okay, so they're actually called Vartikas. So I would like to write that. So please, if you permit me, I would actually write this explanatory note to your commentary on the Brahma Sutras. And of course, the four disciples were extremely qualified disciples. So, and they were pretty articulate also. And they, therefore, they held some apprehensions and they came to Guru and said, "No, no, he was a grihastha before he became a sannyasi. So if he writes explanatory notes to your commentary, he might just fill it with the ritualism that he was practicing earlier. because we don't think he's an ascetic in his full his full heart. Okay, so they tried to seed some doubts in Acharya's mind about Sureshwaracharya's sincerity towards this. Although, like Shankar Bhagavad knew that, he told him, he told Sureshwaracharya, you write something else, let us see. So Sureshwaracharya came to write another very important work called the Naishkarmya Siddhi. Okay, and it came it held his name called Sureshwaracharya. Okay, and Shankara looked at that Naishkarmya Siddhi and he was very impressed. He felt very happy over that particular work. And then he said, "Oh Sureshwaracharya, there is no doubt that you are extremely qualified to write the explanatory note on my commentary. So please go ahead." So therefore, that is how. Because even though Padmapada Acharya and others wanted to write the explanatory note, Acharya Bhagavad actually gave that to Sureshwaracharya, and Sureshwaracharya is therefore Vartikacharya. So he is known as Vartikacharya also. That is the other name of Vartikacharya, Sureshwaracharya, who was the first Pithadipati after, of course, the Shankara Bhagavad at the Sringeri Pitham. So today also his slokam goes as Vartikacharya Mashaye. So Vartikacharya means Vartikas are those explanatory notes for the commentary that he had written. So that is how that name comes to him. So at this time, Padmapadacharya comes and tells Acharya that I want to go on a pilgrimage. My mind wants to go to a lot of different tirthas and then take bath there. Shankara says, no, it's not such a good idea to leave the guru and go, don't go and all that. But Padmapadacharya insists, and therefore he goes on a pilgrimage. So while Padmapadacharya goes to the pilgrimage, Shankara then thinks of his mother because it has been pretty long, and he wants to uh, visit her and see how she is doing. And so, by his yogic power, he goes to Kaladi and he sees her and he falls at her feet. Now, although an ascetic once he takes the sannyasa, the father has to, even the father who brought the ascetic to the world has to prostrate before the sannyasi. Okay, even though he is his son in the Purvashrama. However, it is only the mother who reserves the right of prostration from the sannyasi. Okay, it is supposedly mentioned in the Skanda Purana, okay, which says that Piturvandyo Himaskari, like even the father has to worship, fall at his feet, but Yatina Prasurvandya, so Prasu who is somebody who has given birth to him, so he has to he can do prostration to her also. So now Shankara sees his mother who is ailing, who is almost on her deathbed. She's counting her days, but it is as if she is just waiting for him. And Shankara says, "How are you?" And she says, "I am. As soon as I have seen you, it is just like how after a long spell of heat, the first showers bring you a lot of relief. I am relieved like that." So I have become very weak and emaciated, and I no longer can hold on to this body. Then Shankara gives her Upadesha. So he tells her the highest Vedantic truth. She says, Shankara, I cannot relate to this. It is very hard for me to, keep this in mind and understand this. Please show me a God in form. Okay. And so Shankara, he recites the Shiva Bhujanga Stotram. Okay. And the Shiva Bhujanga Stotram, as soon as he recites that, the Shiva Ganas are there with their, Trishulas and all that. They have a terrifying form. So she sees them and she gets terrified and she says, no, 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 I don't want to go with them. So then Shankara actually prays to Vishnu. And Vishnu actually sends a Vimana along with his, very well decorated, Anucharas, the Vishnu Loka the gods of the Vishnu Loka, and they come in a very nice chariot, and they take his mother along with her. So that is how Bhagavad Pada's mother gets Vimukti, and she goes to the Vaikuntha Loka, and he wants to actually do her last rites to cremate her, and the people around there his relatives actually refused to give him fire, okay, because he didn't there was no fire there, and they refused to lend fire because he was a yati, a sannyasi, and he had no business performing cremation of somebody who belonged to him in the purvashrama. But since it was the word given by Shankara, because before he went on sannyasa, we talked about it in the third day when Shankara was taking sannyasa, that he promised his mother that he would come and perform her last rites. So he cursed them, saying, "From today, you will do cremation in the back of your house." Okay, so that is how even today there is a sect of Brahmins in Kerala who do cremation in the backyard of their house. So your backyards will become cremation grounds. That's what he actually cursed them, because they refused to give him uh, fire. And so after performing the last rites of his mother, he continued to stay in Kaladi and wait for Padmapada, who would come there, and they would together go back. And Padmapada, in the meanwhile, he was moving around in different Tirtha Kshetras. He went to Sri Kalahasti, and he took bath in the Swarnamukhi river. Then he went to Kanchi. Then he saw the Ekambareshwara. And then he went to Chidambaram and had darshan of Nataraja. He went to Srirangam, where his maternal uncle of his previous ashrama lived, and he stayed put in his maternal uncle's in his previous former maternal uncle's house. And his uncle saw, "What are those books with you?" And he explained to him the Advaita philosophy, and the bhashyas written by Acharya Shankara, and what he had also written. Actually, Shankara had asked him to write on something, and it is actually, I think, known as Panchadashi, and he had recited it to Acharya, and Acharya said, "Okay, it's very good." So Padmapada was carrying that book with him. So his uncle saw that, and in the meanwhile, Padmapada said, "From Srirangam, I want to actually go to Rameshwaram and come back. I entrust this book to you. Please keep it very safe, because just like a Gruhastha like your house, you have a lot of attachment for your house and cows. We people are very attached to our works. So therefore, I entrust this to you. Please keep it carefully." So the uncle goes through. He finds that it is actually very well written. But that uncle, his mama, a follower of the school of Prabhakara, a scholar by name Prabhakara, and he sees that if Padmapada's work comes to light, then definitely the school of Prabhakara will be routed. So therefore, he says that there is no way this work should actually come to light, and but how will I destroy it? It is okay. I will set fire to my house and say that my house caught fire, and in that fire your book also was burnt. And saying so, he puts the book in the house, and he sets fire to his hut, and the book also gets gutted in that. So, in the meanwhile, Padmapadacharya goes to Rameshwaram. He recounts, what all happened in Rameshwaram, like the Setu Bandhan happened from Rameshwaram, how Rama waited to build a setu over the ocean and all that. So, I actually strongly believe Acharya Vidyaranya was a great Rama Bhakta, because at no place he misses an opportunity to quote Rama or invoke Rama or invoke Ramayana. So that is also one of the things perhaps which dragged me, very powerfully to this particular work. So, therefore, this Panchapadi, it's not Panchadashi, it is Panchapadi which he wrote. So, when he went back to Srirangam, his uncle told him that unfortunately the house caught fire, and with that, your Panchapadi also caught fire. So then he gets really distraught. And in the meanwhile, some other pilgrims come to him and say, Shankara is waiting for you in Kaladi. So Padmapada goes to Kaladi, and with great grief, he actually tells Shankara that the Panchapadi was actually, lost. And then Shankara says, no problem, nothing happened. I remember what you told me in Sringeri. So now I will dictate, you just write it. So that was the type of dharana shakti that Acharya Bhagavad Pada had. Okay. Uh, and in the meanwhile, the king of Kerala comes. Okay. If you remember, in the first day, in the first episode, in the second episode, the king of Kerala comes and gives him the three dramas and 10,000 gold coins. So Acharya reads those three dramas and gives him back those 10,000 gold coins, saying, "You give it to somebody." So and Acharya asks him, "So how are your dramas doing? Have they gone well into the people?" So then the king says, "No, they were lost in fire." Then Acharya says, "No, it's okay. I remember what I heard from you. That is at least 20 plus years back." And he says, "Now write down. I will tell you." And that's how he actually he brings both the works that were lost to fire back to life. And then Acharya sets out on a Digvijay Yatra because there is a lot of work to do. He has to go around all around the nation, the Aryavarta, the Bharatavarsha, and then establish the school of non-dualism, the Advaita school. And he goes to he was accompanied by the king Sudhanva. So he goes and he has duel with Shaktas, Bhairavas, Kapalikas in different places with the Nilakantha Shaivas. And then once Nilakantha is defeated, he goes to these Vaishnavas and he defeats them. Then from there, he actually moves to Ujjain. Okay, in Ujjain, he performs. He has the darshan of Lord Mahakal, and from near in that Avanti, that is the kingdom of Avanti. So there he meets Bhatta Bhaskara and he has debate with him. So Bhatta Bhaskara also is routed in that particular debate. It also goes on for quite some time. And after Bhatta Bhaskara is defeated, there are a host of other scholars in that area of Avanti by name Bana, Mayura, Dandi, Balhik, and in the place when he reached the place called Balhika, he had sound resistance from Buddhists, okay, who came and he again defeated them in the duel, and then made them also agree to the philosophy of Advaita. Then he defeated the proud scholar called Harsha, okay, uh, who was trained by gurus like Bhattar, Udyanachar, and others. Then Bhagavad Pada goes to Kamarupa, which is Assam. Okay, there is a very strong proponent by name Abhinava Gupta there. So he goes to Abhinava Gupta, and Abhinava Gupta also is soundly defeated by him. So Abhinava Gupta is also a big practitioner of black magic. So from there, Acharya goes to other countries like Videha, Koshala, Anga, Vanga, and the Gauda Desha. Gauda Desha is the present day Bengal. And at every place, it is Vijay Yatra for a reason, because this is the ultimate thing of the Shankara's the greatness is he didn't sit in one place. He moved from place to place in his Vijay Yatras, and they were Vijay Yatras because they were carried out for the sake of dharma. And then he had debates with those people and convinced those people of his great points. And it also astonishes me about the openness of the society in those days, about how they pursued truth, okay, as opposed to and because they knew they could appreciate a true viewpoint, unlike today where without knowing anything people tend to take sides. And we know what kind of shouting matches these debates in the TV shows these days are. As opposed to that, these are very civil debates that took place all the time, and all of them finally bowed to Bhagavad Pada's teachings, and that is how Bhagavad Pada could unify all these, and he gave them proper place in the Advaita doctrine, and he said that, okay, this is where your due place. So with this, all of you march to the supreme being. You are from you are actually supreme being, and your efforts should be to actually realize that. So, however, not all scholars were very open-minded about it. This Abhinava Gupta, for example, as I said, he is a black magician. So he performed black magic on Acharya, because of which Acharya got very severely ill. He would actually vomit blood, and his uh, his sishyas got very concerned because of his falling health. Okay, and Acharya had no attachment to his body now that his mother was also gone. I mean, not that he had attachment to her, but he had a responsibility towards her. So she was also gone. So but they said your body is very precious for us. So therefore they the blood-stained clothes and all, Totaka Charya used to wash without feeling any murmur about it. And he took great care of Acharya. And that is when one day the pain was too much, and Shankara prayed to Lord Shiva. So upon Lord Shiva's command, the Ashwin Devatas came and they said, this is not a disease. This is actually black magic that was performed by somebody. And once he said that, Padmapada got really angry. We know that Padmapada, he is a Narasimha Upasaka. So instantly he thinks of Lord Narasimha, and he does great contemplation on Lord Narasimha. And with that, what happens, as we said, Mrityo Mrityam Namamyaham. So once he deeply contemplated on Lord Narasimha, the black magic that was actually aimed at Acharya Bhagavad Pada, Shankara Bhagavad Pada, boomerang onto that Abhinava Gupta, and he died of the same disease. So that is how black magic usually works. If it doesn't work on the subject on whom it is actually aimed at, it boomerangs onto the one who actually did that, and it harms that person. So that is how Acharya Shankara Bhagavad Pada was cured of this particular illness, and he became well again. And that is when Gaudapada also, Gaudapada is the guru of Govinda Bhagavad Pada, which means is the Paramaguru of Shankara Bhagavad Pada. So he also came and he went through the Bhashyam of written by Shankara Bhagavad Pada, and he was very happy that he was well taught by Govinda Bhagavad Pada, and he had brought to life in proper ways the real spirit of Vedas. Okay, and from there, Shankara Bhagavad Pada went to and he continued his Vijayatra. He defeated the Kannada school, the Nyaya school, the Kapila school, Buddhists, Jains, and a lot of others. And then he heard that there is a Sarvajna Pitham in Kashmir, okay, in the Sharada Desam, Kashmir, and that Sarvajna Pitham, there were four doors to that particular Sarvajna Pitham, and the southern door was closed because the people from south did not possess that much of educate the Shastraic firepower to answer everybody's questions and then get there. So Shankara said, no, that is the place to go. So he was always motivated by a challenge like that. So he went to the Sarvajna Pitham, and there all the schools of different thought which had held debates with him, they all again came, and then they posed questions to him. So and he answered all of them. As I said, the Kannada school, the Nyaya school, the Kapila school, the Buddhist school, the Jaina school. Everybody he answered in in perfect manner, and all of them they agreed and they acclaimed his greatness. And that is when goddess herself asked him, so you have, being an ascetic, you have tasted grihasthashrama. Okay, so have you not committed a sin? Then he said, with this body I have committed no sin. So when Shankara said that, the mother was, goddess was extremely impressed, and that is how Acharya Shankara Bhagavad was given the high place, the high pedestal of the Simhasana at the Sarvagya Pitham. So that is called the Vyakhya Simhasanam. Okay, meaning for all the commentaries, that is the high throne, the high pedestal of all the commentaries. So by defeating all the schools, that was the valedictory, that was the high point of his career, that he went and scaled the heights of the Vyakhya Simhasanam at the Sarvagyam in Kashmir. And after that, he went to Kedar. At Kedar, it was very cold. He had darshan of Kedareshwara. It was extremely cold weather there. So he prayed to Shiva to supply hot water to them, and that's how there is a hot water spring at a place not far from there. And today also, the hot water spring is there. I forget its name, but that hot water spring has appeared there by the prayers of Shankara Bhagavad Pada. So when he reached Kedar, that is when all the gods came in their vimanas, and then they prayed to him, "O Lord Shiva, enough. I think you have done your job on the earth, and you have established your sishyas in various corners of this sacred land of Bharatavarsha. Now you come back. It's time for you to come back to your abode." So then, handing over the baton of Advaita to his sishyas, Acharya Shankara Bhagavad he ascends the mountain at Kedara, and he goes to Kailasha on the way. So that is what is known as the Videha Mukti. He just goes and he goes back to the Kailasha, and then again he gives darshan in the form of Lord Chandrasekhara from Kailasha. So that is how the glorious, that is what I call the ascent. The ascent is to the Vyakhya Simhasana. So the last day's part is actually the ascent. So the ascent is to the Vyakhya Simhasanam and the Sarvagya Pitham, and it is as much also to the high pedestal back at Kailasa from the through the mountain at the Kedara. So today also you will there is actually a samadhi of Acharya Shankara Bhagavad Pada at Kedarnath. That was not in great shape, but in the last few years it has come back to great shape, where a great, very very beautiful granite murti of Shankara Bhagavad Pada has been sculpted there, and it is a great place. I sincerely hope that we all have an opportunity someday to go and recollect these glorious moments of Acharya Shankar Bhagavad Pada's life and career. So that is about the five parts that I had planned. I am sorry I underestimated the times. About 30 minutes every day. Today we have taken almost 1.5 hours, but I thank you for your patient listening. And it would be incomplete if I don't say this about Shankara Bhagavad Pada. It is not that he has written only in the high and dry subject of Vedanta and only Tattvamasi. Shankara Bhagavad Pada has something for everyone, right from a child to the highest, right from an innocent seeker to a seeker in the highest echelons. He has something for everyone. Okay, that is what the greats are like. They cover the entire spectrum. So whoever wants whatever, they can go and pick that from there. So Shankara has written a number of stotras. Okay, they are known as Shankara stotras. So which means Shankara has written so Shankara stotras. So I think there are almost 60 or 70 of those stotras which are available to us. Okay, and each of them are written in beautiful meters. They are written with beautiful word, implying beautiful words. At the same time, they are easy to chant. Okay, so I think the on this Shankar Jayanti, all of us should take a vow, because we owe a great debt of gratitude to this ultimate ascetic, the Yatipati, Acharya Shankara Bhagavad Pada, because without we are because he was. Okay, I don't think the Sanatana Dharma in its glory would have stayed course for this many years without his efforts. Okay, so therefore, it is we can historically prove that his efforts were instrumental in forging unity in this particular nation, because a unity in any nation doesn't come on account of being belonging to that nation. The unity comes from a certain cultural underpinning. Okay, and that cultural underpinning is very identical in our vast land, whether we are from Kerala or Kashmir, or we are from Dwarka or Kamakhya. Okay, wherever we are, I think you will see facets of similarity in our culture. So that underlying culture is what is actually holding us all together, and that is how we are Bharat. And I think this was brought out to in a great manner by Shankara Bhagavad Pada by touring, far and wide in this country. Again and again, he has toured this vast land, and he was on a mission right from the word go. Imagine in 32 years what he has, the lasting contribution that he has made, that lasts for millennia and more, because the blessings to him from Vyasa and others is that as long as the sun and moon are there, your work will stay. So, which means that the blessings of the gods are and the rishis are there, and our culture is here to stay. But we need to also do our bit, because along with the Pitru Runa and all that, it is our duty to fulfill the Rishi Runa also. So, therefore, we have to fulfill our Runa, our debt of gratitude to this great sage, Shankara, who appeared in our land. And with those words, I would like to bring it to a conclusion here. And just I want to say this word. I wouldn't have been able to do it without this particular book I found in archives. So this is actually translated into English. The Madhaviya Shankara Digvijayam is translated into English. So this is a verse by verse translation by Sri K.V. Subbaratnam, and this was done in 1972 by the Akhila Bharata Shankara Seva Samiti. What a legendary effort it is! About 50 odd years back, I was actually stunned when I found this book. Because it was impossible to understand this, just like you couldn't understand the Veda Vyasa's Brahma Sutras without the Shankara's commentary. For me, I couldn't understand the Shankara's life in the Madhavya Shankara Digvijayam without this particular book, to whatever extent I understood. So, again, thank you very much for listening. And once again, invoking the blessings of Almighty, of the Paramatma, and of the Jagadguru on all of us, all of our families, and all of this country, which is currently going through this difficult time of attacks and whatnot. So let us pray that peace prevails, not only in our land, all over the world, in all beings, and let there be good thoughts that are there in all beings, and let there be anurakti in the Sanatana Dharma Charanam, and let everybody prosper by virtue of that peaceful nature in them. So, with this prayer of Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu, I bring this five talk series to a close. Thank you very much for listening. हरि ओम ओम शांति 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 श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करम् सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्